What should the WSSU community know about Ms. Thomas? What should we know about you?
You know, they say there's no place like home. And I was telling some staff yesterday, and I told my husband, I said, I've been many places. This really feels like home, and it's been great. It's been a great feeling. I've enjoyed every day that I've been here. I was chomping at the bit to get here, and so I want the WSSU family to know that I'm here. I'm all in. I'm committed. I'm excited to be part of the Ramily, and I want nothing but the best for WSSU. What is that? We're aiming for Division II national championships, and that's where we're headed. That's where our trajectory is, and that's what our goal is. And we're going to do everything we need to put those things in place. That doesn't mean add water and stir, but I think that my background and my skill set, having been at Division II, having been at Division I at the highest level, and then making that transition back to Division II, speaks to that. And my experience with North Carolina and really knowing and understanding the business of college athletics, but more importantly, the business of higher education and knowing the value of a higher education experience and degree is important. And so I bring all of that to WSSU.
Okay. And you're coming in an exciting time, a new year, a new decade, all of that. The last decade for WSSU has seen a lot of success as they've made their move back to NCAT Division II. The last 20 or so months has been a lot of change. Change at the AD position, change at the men's basketball position, the football position, the transition from baseball to golf. How important is it for you to, as you come in, to establish that some stability is coming and put forth your vision as you're opening up to a new decade and folks are really looking forward to the future?
You hit the nail on the head. That is so important, is that stability. I think we have a great group of administrative staff that have supported the coaches that have been here and trying to be the glue that holds everything together. George Knox did an exceptional job as interim AD in really continuing to move us forward. Sometimes you have an interim that doesn't move you forward, they just kind of stand still, and he really did a great job of moving us forward and making sure that it was seamless for the student athletes and that there were very little hiccups that the students could feel. There's always going to be some with change, but my goal is for the coaches, the staff, and the student athletes to know that we're going to settle the waters. And now, does that mean that there's no change in the future? That does not mean that. But what it does mean is that fluid turnover, we're going to slow that down. And I appreciate Chancellor and his support in bringing me here, giving me a multi-year contract means that I have that stability to do my job and to do it well, and to really dig in and make sure that we've got all the right pieces in place and that we're moving towards being that exceptional program that we've been in the past, and that I know that we have the ability to be again.
Right. So we'll go to football. I know you talked to John Dell and you talked about how it's just giving Coach Massey that support as he gets the guy goes through the recruiting season and gets ready for the spring practice. Obviously, football is a proud tradition here at WSSU. What do you see? How do you see the future of you guys moving forward to go back to where you're winning NCAT championships and you're winning and you're moving towards Division II championships? How far do you think that you guys are from that goal, and what do you feel like is going to help you guys get there?
Absolutely. It's important that we start with the recruiting. That's where it starts. But before, just like you have recruiting, you have retention. So our current student athletes are so critical, is that they have the message that they have support and stability right now as we go through what this is, and it's an evaluation period. Coach and I had great conversation. I told him, I said, the streets might talk. I said, don't listen to the streets. If you don't hear it from myself or Chancellor, then you haven't heard it. I said, and I won't blindside you. But we are going through this process. But in this process, he has my support. And that's so important for me to come in the door and not to support Coach Massey and his staff while they are getting the young men prepared during the spring semester. It's not fair to them, and especially not fair to our student athletes. But what does that look like? It takes recruiting. We have to put money into recruiting, which we're looking at that. What are we currently allocating, and how do we move forward? My goal is to, beginning with summer 21, is to have our students here in the summer. that is so critical. Being able to go to summer school and to work out, and that's not just football, but being able to have our student athletes here, getting that semester on the front end, whether you're coming in for the first time for enrollment or whether you're continuing enrollment, allows you to get that little bit of extra edge in the classroom. So can you imagine if I go to summer school every year, I graduate in 4 years, possibly 3, and now let WSSU pay for for grad school, as opposed to it being 4 and 5 and 6 years. Now some people need a longer road, but being able to do that now pushes us forward. What does it look like? It's a couple years. You know, when you have transition, sometimes you have that adrenaline surge, and it can happen sooner rather than later. But it's going to take recruiting and bringing in additional students to support the students that are presently here, making sure we've got students in the right seats on the bus, and making adjustments where necessary. And obviously, you see that in the spring semester. But that recruiting is so critical, and how we recruit and who we recruit, and recruiting student athletes. If they're not coming here focused on getting their degree, we've got to have a different conversation. We know that they can play, but they've got to be here, coming here to go to school and get their degree.
Right. And you talk about that, there's also the other part of that, that's the game day atmosphere. You know, being around the program, you know, we've seen the tailgating to culture grow. And every year at homecoming, it seems like we're seeing less and less folks actually coming in and getting into the game atmosphere. How important is it, in your estimation, to establish a game atmosphere at all your games, but especially at your football and revenue sports, that can draw people into the gates as much as everything else?
Bowman Gray has to feel like the game center. It absolutely. Our students deserve that. They should not look up and only see their parents and a few people there. We need alums to come inside the gates. But we've got to do our part to make it as exciting inside the gates as it is outside. Because homecoming is about coming home and seeing your friends, reminiscing and thinking about the past. But the student athletes are on the field, and they want to look up and see the alums. They want to see those people who paved the way for them. And I want our student athletes to know that history, to know where they came from, know what it means to be a Ram. They have to understand that the Rams, we weren't created today. We were created historically, but they have to understand what that is. And so to do that, we have to get our alums, our supporters, our community to come inside the gates of Bowman Gray. So we're working on that during this off season, figuring out what that looks like and trying some different things. Homecoming is early this year. I know that was a surprise, but it was for all the right reasons. And I think that playing Tuskegee has a lot of historical opportunities for us as well, coupled with our own homecoming, that we could do some really neat and great things. That being that second home game for us. It's early in the season, but I think it's a great opportunity for us to get our family back here early and prepare for the rest of the season, and to really do a bang-up job on that front end.
Right, definitely. And you talk about football and there, you know, in the last decades, WSSU's come back down to Division II. They haven't played a lot of FCS teams. They've mostly played a Division II schedule, while the rest of the conference has played those teams, and obviously along with that comes financial gain. WSSU will be playing North Carolina Central this year, so that'll be the first time that's happened in a long time. And I know at Kentucky State you guys had, I think, 2 FCS games this past year, and you won both of them. So as we go forward, looking forward into the schedules, do we expect to see possibly, you know, will you be open to entertaining, playing up, and trying to get those dollars to help generate revenue?
We'll have a few here and there, but I also don't believe in building a schedule based on needing to pad our budget. And I say that lightly. It's not to take anything away from people who play a lot of FCS games or play a lot of guarantee games, as we call them. But I think it's also important, as we look at what our goal is, which is Division II national prominence, we have to head in that direction. And to do that, we need to be ranked. We need to win the region after we win the conference, and we need to get the respect on the rankings. The FCS wins don't help us do that, unfortunately. And if you look at Kentucky State, Coach Jackson and our staff there did a bang-up job of doing a huge turnaround from an 0-10 team. But if you look at the rankings, and that doesn't take away from the body of work, but it looks at who some of our opponents are. So even looking at when you build a schedule, being very intentional in doing that, so that we can continue to have those rankings. So having one here and there, especially in our area and in our region, is important to do so. So looking at building those relationships and rebuilding with, North Carolina A&T, what that looks like. That's important, and that can give us some opportunities to generate some revenue and not have a lot of expense. But then also looking at, traveling here and there every now and then. So adding a couple. But football season, as much as it seems like it's a long season, it's not. There's very few opportunities, and so we have to use them wisely and look at balancing that ranking and strength of schedule along with generating revenue.
So you would be open to possibly playing North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central, some of the MEAC or other schools as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And obviously that final decision is made in conjunction with our head coach as well as the chancellor. But that's the way that I'm heading, and chancellor supports building our schedule and looking at opportunities to build it, but also build relationships. I know that I-40 Classic and I-40 competition was really important to us in the past, and it's a great way to really connect with our neighbors.
Right, and so you talked about making Bowman Group feel like the Game Center. Game Center is an amazing atmosphere. Big game tonight, and it should be packed. It should be crazy, but it's also a small gym. It's a third. It's maybe a little bit more than a third of the student population. If all the students wanted to come to a game, they couldn't come in. And that clearly limits revenue that can be made off of basketball. In the past, when I was a student here in the late 2000s, we played games at the Coliseum and at the Annex, and slowly but surely that's come to a stop. Obviously, you're still early on the job, but how do you look at basketball as far as being a revenue generator in the building that can't really generate very much revenue for you?
You're correct, and really. The environment and the atmosphere are phenomenal, second to none when we go in the Game Center. So it'll be amazing tonight, but you're correct. All of our students won't get in to the games, and not unlike some of our other UNC system schools. And so what does that look like in the future? And we've started to have some of those conversations in general just to talk about the what ifs. What does the future look like, the short term and the long term? Taking games to the Coliseum, those could be possibilities, but it's got to make sense. What is that expense? And then also if we go to the Coliseum, we would get all of our students in, but in terms of revenue, we're going to bring our students in for free. They get into home games for free, and that wouldn't change taking it off site, but it would allow for more of our alums and more of our community to attend the game. So definitely a possibility, especially for some of the bigger games and where we could draw in. The other challenge to that is when you take things off site to a larger venue, then sometimes, depending on what else is going on and what you're competing with, then you may not get the crowd. So it is, it's a balancing act of sorts, figuring out what works best and what is the best route to take.
And I guess, just any last words you'd like to give to the fans, the alumni, whatever. There are a lot of WSSU alumni that follow HBCU Gameday and things like that. What is it that you're your administration will do to reach out to them to keep them coming? Because like you say, in the football and basketball season, there's a lot of opportunities for them to get out there.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, first tonight, beginning at 5:30, we play the Trojans of Virginia State University. So please come support the student athletes, coaches, and staff, and our cheerleading squad. But we're going to get in the community. You'll see me out and about, but also our staff. We have our first full staff meeting tomorrow, and they'll hear from me that I expect us to be across campus, but also out in our community. We're also going to move around the state, move around the region and the country, going to see our alumni to say thank you. Obviously at some point we're going to say, please support, please join me in supporting. I wear my horns pinned proudly, not just because they gave it to me, but because I wrote my envelope just like everybody else did. Join me in supporting what we do here. The reality is it takes revenue. We can't do it all from support from our trust account. We need the support and the assistance, but we're going to come say thank you. So you'll see us out and about. When I see people, please engage me, say hello. I'm going to do the same. We're open to invitations. Invite me, invite our teams to your church, to your gatherings. But you'll see us out and about, and we're coming out there to say thank you. We're here. We're glad to be here, and want you to be able to get to know the student athletes that are here, and for them to get to know you.